The Lebanese government called on the international community to increase efforts to provide necessary humanitarian aid to Palestinian refugees and displaced persons. In Argentina, social organizations mobilized on Monday to complain against the government of President Javier Milei for the lack of food in dining halls and soup kitchens. And in Haiti, the government extended the curfew due to the increase of violence in the country's capital. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Lebanese government called on the international community to increase efforts to provide necessary humanitarian aid to Palestinian refugees and displaced persons in the midst of the persistent shelling by the Israeli regime. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates emphasized the need to support the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, so that it can give continuity to its humanitarian mission. The ministry had recalled earlier that the work of UNRWA offers hope for the survival of the Palestinian people. The United Nations organization warned that more than 570,000 Gazans are vulnerable due to the crisis and lack of food and medical supplies after 6 months of Israeli bombardments. The United Nations organization endorsed a report that warns that more than 70% of the population in northern Gaza faces catastrophic hunger. The document highlights that hunger in the region has worsened and expanded, with 79% more Gazans likely to see their situation worsen to a catastrophic level and 92% more expected to do so by mid-July. The United Nations Assistant Director General for Food and Agriculture, Beth Bechdol, warned that if the steps are not taken to cease hostilities and provide greater humanitarian access in Gaza, famine will be imminent. More than 20,000 citizens demonstrated in Santiago de Chile in solidarity with Palestine and in rejection of the illegal actions perpetrated by Israeli regime against its population. Several families, representatives of political and social organizations and citizens sensitized to what is happening in the Middle East walked from the Gabriela Mistral Cultural Center to the Bandejón de los Héroes, passing in front of the Palacio de la Moneda. The demonstrators condemned the violation of international law by Israel in the Palestinian territories. They also demanded a ceasefire and expressed their support for the decision of the President Gabriel Boric to reject the participation of the Israeli arms companies in the next edition of the International Air and Space Exhibition. The vote count of the Russian presidential election reached 100% and confirms that the candidate for re-election, Vladimir Putin, won with 87.28% of the votes. In this way, with a historic turnout of 77.44%, President Putin was re-elected for a fifth term. According to the Central Electoral Commission, the second most voted candidate was Nikolai Kharitonov of the Communist Party of the Russian Federation, followed by the New People Party of Vladislav Dankov. Meanwhile, in the fourth place was the party of ultra-nationalists led by Leonid Slutsky. After learning about the electoral body's reports, the Russian president thanked his people for their trust and renewed his commitment to make Russia a strong state.
I would like first of all to thank the citizens of Russia. We are all one team of all Russian citizens who went to the polling station and voted. And of course, today, in the condition in which we live, a special word of thanks to our soldiers, to the guys who, on the battle line, provide the country with the conditions for its development and assistance.
Several heads of state sent their congratulations to Vladimir Putin after his victory in the recent Russian presidential elections. Among the heads of state who sent their best wishes was the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, who noted that Russian victory and civilization are based on their principles and values of respect for the interests of rights of other peoples. The Syrian leader wished Putin all success in his new term of office, as well as his desire to increase relations between the two countries. Also, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated the Russian leader after his victory in the 2024 presidential election. Modi expressed his hope that Moscow and New Delhi will continue to work together to strengthen the strategic and privileged partnership in the years ahead. India and Russia have had strong diplomatic ties for more than 70 years, and both nations are part of the BRICS bloc. The president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, joined the leaders who congratulated the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, after the results of the elections held in Russia. Lukashenko congratulated the Russian president on behalf of all the people of Belarus on what he considered an impressive achievement and a convincing victory. The head of the Belarusian government also talked with the Russian leader about bilateral relations and the political situation in the region. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. In Argentina, social organizations mobilized on Monday to complain against the government of President Javier Milei for the lack of food in dining halls and soup kitchens. The demonstrators staged the protest under the slogan "Hunger is the limit," in addition to denouncing the government's cuts and adjustments in social programs such as Potenciar Trabajo. For this reason, the unions intend to cut off the main roads to the city of Buenos Aires within the framework of a day of 500 road blockades and mobilizations throughout the country, deepening the plan of struggle of the demonstrators. Meanwhile, the protest tests once again the anti-picketing protocol of the Minister of Security, Patricia Bullrich. In the framework of the demonstrations, repression by police officers against demonstrators have been denounced within the framework of the action of the anti-picketing protocol. The police of Buenos Aires advanced with infantry, tear gas and sticks against the participants of the demonstration. Meanwhile, the social organizations tried to avoid the intervention of the Minister of Security, Patricia Bullrich, and her anti-picketing protocol, crowding the surroundings of some roads to the federal capital, but leaving the crossings free. In Venezuela, an important stage of the electoral chronogram begins. The National Electoral Council inaugurates the special day of registration and inscription, a key measure in guaranteeing the right to vote. According to the schedule approved by the highest electoral body, this process of national and international scope will last until April 16th. On that day, the National Electoral Council will cut the list of voters who will be qualified to vote next July. As from today, there are permanent areas in the country that will operate from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. for the update. The Venezuelan electoral roll reached in the last elections a registration of 21,027,120 voters. As part of the program for Wednesday of this week, the selection of the subordinate organizations is also scheduled, and the following day the nominations of candidates will begin, a stage that will be extended until the 25th of the same month. The government of Haiti extended the curfew due to the increase of violence in the country's capital. The authorities declared the extension of the ruling until Wednesday, March 20th. The measure will not affect public service providers, medical personnel, and duly identified media. With this resolution, the government seeks to restore order and control the violence unleashed in the metropolitan area of Port-au-Prince. The authorities recall that within framework of the state of emergency in force until April 3rd, any type of demonstration or on public roads is forbidden. In Cuba, peaceful protests took place in the province of Santiago de Cuba over long hours of power outages and lack of supplies. The government authorities of Santiago dialogued directly with the protesters. The president stated, several people have expressed inconformity with the situation of the electric service and food distribution, a context that the enemies of the revolution are trying to take advantage of for destabilizing purposes. Díaz-Canel warned that in the last hours, terrorists based in the United States have been encouraging actions against the internal order of the country. In this sense, he assured that from his government they seek to attend to the demands of the citizens to improve the situation and in the midst of the blockade to continue working in peace to get out of this problem. Cuba will continue to work from peace to solve the current situation. President Miguel Díaz-Canel reaffirmed that the needs of the citizens in the face of Washington's blockade will be met. The executive is committed to dialogue and denounce sectors that are once again trying to destabilize the country. In this context, Foreign Affairs Minister Bruno Rodriguez, in his X account, reminded the United States government, especially its embassy in Cuba, that they should not intrude in the internal affairs of the country, neither encourage social disorder. The foreign minister later on denounced that with the genocidal blockade, they only seek to asphyxiate the country. The tweet continues saying that based on the daily situation of shortages and difficulties, the United States government is waging another war from the platforms they dominate. At the end, Rodriguez highlighted the direct and cruel responsibility of Washington in the acute economic situation that weighs on the well-being of the Cuban people. In Cuba, local news outlets explained the reasons behind the protests that took place in the province of Santiago de Cuba in the eastern region of the country. In this way, they detailed that several people took to the streets on Sunday and made use of the right to demonstrate peacefully as a result of the long hours of power outages that have due to the unavailability of fuel and other situations derived from the pressure of the blockade. The main demands were related to food and electrical energy. Law enforcement agencies were present at the site to monitor the situation, protect the demonstrators, and prevent violent acts that never occur. Likewise, the authorities of Santiago de Cuba went to the site to dialogue with the population and attend to their demands. The Government of Reconciliation and National Unity United Nicaragua Triumphs sent a message to the President of the Republic of Cuba, high officials of the country and the Cuban people in view of the recent demonstrations provoked by the difficult situation that the island is going through due to the unjust U.S. blockade. The President of Nicaragua, Daniel Ortega, in his statement in solidarity support to the Cuban people, of the party, to you, Raúl Miguel, and to all the leadership of the party, of the government, and its glorious revolutionary vanguard, our strong and solidary embrace, as always. President Ortega further emphasized his absolute confidence that the Cuban people will be able to overcome adversity, stating, "We trust that with the strength of these great people and the God of all triumphs, the history of honorable bravery in the face of the immoral daring of the imperialists of the earth will continue to shine, writing new pages of exemplary transcendence of the challenges imposed, showing once again the unbreakable spirit of Fidel Raúl Miguel and that invincible Cuban revolution. With peace as a permanent banner, Cuba will continue to win amidst the respect, admiration, and affection of the peoples of the world. We win and we will win." The member states of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America People's Trade Treaty, ALBA-TCP, issued Monday an official statement supporting the Cuban government and its people in the face of the new aggression by the enemies of the Cuban Revolution. In the statement, the ALBA-TCP member nations firmly reject the destabilization attempts against the Republic of Cuba. and reaffirmed their firm solidarity with the Cuban people and government, expressed their support for its legitimate denunciation against enemy campaigns, as well as their recognition of its tireless efforts to overcome all the difficulties resulting from the brutal and illegal economic, commercial, and financial blockade imposed by the government of the United States of America. The communiqué reiterated that Cuba is an example of resilience, work and resistance for all Latin America and the Caribbean, and its authority have and will have all the willingness to face and improve the conditions that this worthy nation has been subjected to for years as a result of the hatred and contempt of the enemies of the Cuban Revolution. The Latin American news agency Prensa Latina, based in Cuba, denounced on Saturday a cyber attack that caused the loss of its YouTube channel. The Cuban media said that the email account associated with the channel was also hacked and their access and recovery credentials were modified. According to a note published by the news agency itself in the YouTube social network channel used by Prensa Latina, a U.S. company called MicroStrategy appears with data on the channel's opening date, views, and accumulated subscribers similar to those of Prensa Latina's television service. In its statements, the agency demands that the U.S. computer company Google investigate what happened and take the necessary measures to recover the channel. Cuba hosts the third international symposium Patria with the participation of more than 100 representatives from several countries to discuss digital communication at a global level. During the event, participants will discuss topics on the communicational counteroffensive against the media war and disinformation campaigns promoted by U.S. imperialism. The meeting seeks to articulate the Cuban communicative experience with conferences and workshops, in addition to presentations of projects in the area where the experience of networks such as teleSUR and Alba Yadin will be showcased. For the first time, the Patria International Symposium will be held jointly with the 2024 Computer Convention and Fair, which will bring creators closer to the technological field. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The Democratic Republic of the Congo has ratified its decision to reinstate the death penalty. They claim it is a measure to combat armed violence. They refer specifically to the military and civilians who cooperate with the M23 rebels in the eastern regions of the country, who will be tried as traitors. They also focus on the so-called urban bandits. The African nation had this law under moratorium for 21 years, and soon it will be formalized with the signature of the Minister of Justice. Since 2003, under the presidency of Joseph Kabila, the suspension has been lifted. Human rights organizations expressed their indignation at the decision. Iceland Meteorological Office reported a decrease in the volcanic activity on the Reykjanes Peninsula. After reporting a new eruptive crack in the volcano on Saturday, the office informed that the magma movements continue to evolve, although they are losing intensity. However, authorities warn that the cracks in the mountain are 3 kilometers long and the magma intensity is reported to be low. The security forces of Iceland has activated a state of emergency in the Reykjanes Peninsula due to this volcanic activity. In Indonesia, the local disaster mitigation agency reported on Monday that thousands of people have fled their homes in central Java province due to flooding that devastated the region over the weekend. The worst affected area is Demak, Regency, where more than 22,000 people have had to take a temporary shelter due to floodings. According to the Denmark Disaster Mitigation Agency, 89 villages in 11 sub-districts were flooded and water rose between 30 and more than 80 centimeters. Flooding intensified in Denmark after a dam collapsed on the Wuland River and cut a section of the provincial road connecting Denmark to neighboring Kuds Regency.
The flood happened because the heavy rain, especially in this area to the east, which was very intense, triggering a strong flow of water that caused a leak at the dam. I don't know. This will be a no-income period for us. Everything we have has gone. In 5 days or at least a week, we have to close the leak at the dam. After the leak is fixed, we can pump out the water. We are using 30 units of water pumps, so all the water can be pumped out in 2 weeks.
In Ireland, St. Patrick's Day celebrations take place in towns and cities across the country on Sunday, with an estimated 500,000 people gathered in Dublin to watch the parade. The religious holiday commemorates the death of St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland. It is a day of celebrating Irish culture through parades, music, dances, and a lot of green, the color commonly associated with the saint. Crowds of people from home and where Irish jerseys and hats were bowed by a selection of colorful floats and musical performances in what has been billed as the biggest ever national parade.
As a dove myself, I have loved it so far. So,
it means having a good time, getting back my heritage as technically Irish back in the day. Absolutely love it here, so much fun.
There's the obvious, the green and everything, but there's the history around, around Ireland and how, how Ireland's involved in its independence. And so trying to find those roots and understanding how St. Patrick was involved in that's pretty important to the family. So I thought we thought we'd take the time and go out and try and learn a bit about it.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.